You know, Carl Jung, the legendary psychologist, has this way of getting right to the heart of who we are. His quotes aren't just words, they're maps to understanding the deepest parts of the human soul. And there's one idea of his that's incredibly powerful, especially in today's world. It's about how you can truly see someone's character, not when things are easy, but when they're hard. Jung believed that if you want to see a person's true nature, you only need to pay attention to two things. Just two: their reaction during a crisis, and the distinction between what they show the world and who they really are inside. Today, we're going on a deep dive into this profound concept. We'll explore the psychology behind human behavior, the hidden forces that drive us, and how, by understanding Jung's work, we can better understand ourselves and the people around us. This isn't just theory, it's a practical guide to deciphering the human character. So, let's begin our journey into the depths of the human psyche. Part 1. Crisis as a Revealer. Unmasking True Character Through Defense Mechanisms. Have you ever noticed how people seem to change when the pressure is on? It's like a storm hits their life, and suddenly, parts of them you've never seen before come rushing to the surface. According to Carl Jung, understanding a person's reaction in moments of crisis is an incredibly powerful tool for peering into the depths of their soul. You see, crises have a funny way of activating our subconscious defense mechanisms. Think of these as psychological reflexes, strategies we've developed mostly without even realizing it, to help us cope with inner conflicts that feel too overwhelming to face head-on. They're like a shield our ego puts up against pressures it finds too difficult to accept consciously. When a crisis strikes, we're often faced with an external threat while simultaneously grappling with internal emotional wounds and feelings we've pushed down for years. This double whammy of emotional and psychological burden kicks our defense systems into high gear, bringing invisible aspects of our personality into the light. And these Jungian defense mechanisms can look very different from person to person, depending on their psychological makeup, their life experiences, and their unique inner battles. Jung taught us that these mechanisms aren't just about coping with stress, they are a direct reflection of a person's character. Let me give you a few examples. Some people, when faced with a crisis, might use what's called denial. They simply refuse to accept the reality of the situation or the emotional pain they're experiencing. It's like their mind says, "Nope, this isn't happening." By denying the difficult event, they temporarily relieve that internal tension. It's a quick fix. But here's the catch: this temporary relief can, in the long run, lead to a much deeper internal conflict. Why? Because those real, raw emotions don't just disappear. They get buried, and buried emotions have a tendency to grow more complex and powerful the longer they're suppressed. Another really common defense mechanism is projection. This is a fascinating one. It's a strategy where an individual tries to protect themselves by attributing their own internal conflicts or negative emotions onto other people. So, in a moment of crisis, a person might try to lighten their own emotional load by projecting their fear, anger, or anxiety onto someone else. It's as if they're saying, "I'm not the one who's terrified and out of control. You are." This allows them to take the unresolved conflicts raging in their inner world and paint them onto the people around them. Jung argued that while projections protect people from their own painful illusions in the short term, they ultimately lead to even greater internal confusion and distance from the truth. You avoid confronting the real problem, so the real problem just gets stronger. Then there's a more positive, or at least more transformative, defense mechanism: sublimation. This is where things get interesting. Sublimation allows people to express those suppressed impulses or negative emotional experiences in a socially acceptable and often creative way. Instead of lashing out in anger, Someone might channel that intense energy into a powerful piece of art, an intense workout, or a driven work project. It's a way of transforming something dark and difficult into something constructive. So, in Jungian psychology, these defense mechanisms are the psychological barriers we build to overcome internal difficulties. Jung insisted that they provide a crucial key to analyzing human character. By observing how someone defends themselves in a crisis, whether they deny, project, or sublime it, we get vital clues about the deep conflicts hidden in their subconscious. Becoming aware of these patterns can help us understand a person's true face and analyze their inner dynamics with much greater accuracy. The crisis doesn't create the character, it reveals it. Now, I want to ask you, looking back at the last major crisis in your life, personal or professional, what defense mechanism did you notice kicking in for you? Was it denial, where you refused to believe what was happening? Or maybe projection, where you caught yourself blaming others for what was really stirring inside you? Share in the comments if you're comfortable. Awareness is the first step to understanding. Part 2. The Shadow Self. Decoding Subconscious Emotional Reactions. Now, let's go even deeper. Beyond the specific defense mechanisms, there's the raw, unfiltered emotional surge that a crisis can trigger. In Carl Jung's approach to psychology, these subconscious emotional reactions that bubble up in moments of crisis are considered one of the most profound indicators of a person's true character. Crises act like an earthquake for our inner world. They shake the very foundations of our psyche, and in that shaking, all sorts of emotions, thoughts, and impulses that are normally stored away in the hidden vaults of our mind come spilling out. Jung believed that the conflicts and suppressed emotions within a person's psychic structure, which surface during these critical periods, are a pure reflection of their true nature. These subconscious emotional reactions often appear suddenly and unexpectedly. They can seem uncontrollable, even to the person experiencing them. They are an expression of suppressed feelings that belong to the person on a deep, internal level, regardless of how much they conflict with their conscious thoughts or society's norms. The most obvious situation is when someone just snaps. They might have a sudden outburst of anger, or collapse into a puddle of tears over something that seems minor. Jung would say that if you investigate how a person deals with these emotional reactions, you can see the traces of their suppressed fears, desires, or traumatic memories. A person in crisis might become uncontrollably angry, but that anger might be the result of a long-suppressed sense of powerlessness. Or they might be overwhelmed by a deep feeling of helplessness, and hopelessness a sure sign that old emotional wounds from their past have never truly healed. For Jung, these emotional loads in the subconscious manifest through such explosions. Understanding how a person navigates a crisis can give us deep information about their internal structure. But here's an important twist. These subconscious reactions aren't limited to negative emotions. Sometimes, the most beautiful, positive aspects of a person can also shine through during a crisis. Jung noted that deeper, intuitive forces within a person can guide them when everything else falls apart. A surprising courage, a profound sense of compassion, or a clear-headed wisdom can emerge from the depths. This is the positive side of the shadow. The role of subconscious reactions in crises isn't just a momentary blip. These feelings carry important imprints of a person's past. Jung's view of the subconscious is that it contains not only our immediate feelings, but also the accumulated traumas and pains we've experienced throughout our lives. A crisis can become the moment when this pent-up energy from the past bursts forth. In a strange way, moments of crisis provide a unique opportunity, a chance to reconcile with our past, to heal old wounds, and to rediscover ourselves. This is a crucial moment in what Jung called the process of individuation, the journey toward becoming a whole, integrated person. So, these emotional reactions, both positive and negative, are extremely valuable for understanding both the conscious and unconscious worlds of an individual. Crises are when people are at their most vulnerable, and it's in these moments that internal conflicts, suppressed emotions, and past traumas come out into the open. A proper analysis of these reactions can give us important clues about a person's true character, far beyond the social mask they present to the world. Now let's turn the lens on ourselves. Can you recall a moment under pressure where you acted or reacted in a way that felt not like you? Maybe it was an unexpected tear, a burst of irritation at a loved one, or conversely, a display of strength you didn't know you had. What suppressed part of your personality do you think broke through? What might it have said about your deepest fears, or conversely, your strength? Reflect on that, and if you feel comfortable, share your insight below. Part 3. The Ego's Battlefield, Introversion, Extroversion, and Crisis Response. To really piece this all together, we need to understand the stage on which this drama plays out, the ego. In Jung's psychological theory, the ego forms the foundation of our conscious sense of self. You can think of it as the structure that tries to maintain our balance between the individual and the external world. It's formed through our attempts to make sense of ourselves and our surroundings. But the ego isn't just about our internal sense of I. It's also deeply connected to our relationship with society and our quest for inner equilibrium. Moments of crisis are critical turning points where the boundaries of the ego are tested and internal conflicts merge with external pressure. According to Jung, a person's attitude toward a crisis shows us the resilience and functionality of their ego. And this is where one of his most famous concepts comes into play: introversion and extroversion. The interplay between the ego and these attitudes gives us vital clues about how a person will handle a crisis and how their character is shaped. Jung defined introversion as a personality trait, a tendency to turn inward, to dive deeply into one's own feelings and thoughts. An introverted person's ego structure is nourished mainly by internal processes. In times of crisis, they are more likely to withdraw, to seek solitude to process what's happening. They observe the external world, the social relationships, the environmental events, from a slight distance, often hiding their immediate emotional reactions from others. Even in highly stressful situations, an extrovert, on the other hand, has an ego that is primarily fueled by interaction with the external world, social acceptance, external approval, and environmental factors. When a crisis hits, an extroverted person will typically engage with their environment more intensely. They might talk it out, seek social support, and look for external solutions. Their reaction is often immediate and observable. Now, neither approach is inherently better. While extroversion might enhance interactions with the environment to resolve a crisis, introverts often seek a deeper, more personal solution. This difference in crisis response is also a reflection of a person's internal values and their search for safety. An introvert might perceive the crisis as deeply personal and try to resolve it through internal emotional work, while an extrovert might see it as an external problem to be solved by engaging with the outside world. Both approaches reflect the functionality of the ego, but that functionality differs based on the person's inner world and their relationship with the external world. The impact of a crisis on a person's ego structure also influences their growth process. Jung saw crisis moments as an important stage in the process of individuation. In this process, the ego is transformed, influenced by both the external world and the internal transformation it undergoes. Whether a person is more introverted or extroverted during a crisis also defines the obstacles and opportunities for their personal development. By overcoming a crisis through introspection, an introverted person taps into their internal resources, and this process allows them to uncover a profound personal strength. An extrovert, by seeking environmental support and social feedback, develops a powerful ability to adapt to the external world. For Jung, both paths can lead to growth. The key is to see moments of crisis as an opportunity for spiritual development. Crises are important moments where the conflicts within a person's inner world and their interaction with the external environment can trigger a personal transformation. How the ego functions, the balance it strikes between introversion and extroversion, determines how a person copes, seeks solutions, and evolves spiritually. So, which camp do you fall into? When the storm hits, is your first reaction to turn inward, to process everything alone? Or do you instinctively reach for the phone to call a friend, gather a counsel, and start acting outwardly? What feels more healing and effective for you personally? Type in the comments, crisis introvert or crisis extrovert. It'll be fascinating to see our community's landscape. Part 4. The search for solutions and the path of adaptation. Jung's views on human psychology show us that understanding how a person searches for solutions during a crisis is a direct window into their true nature. A crisis causes the deep conflicts within a person's psyche to surface, both on an individual and a collective level. These moments are critical periods where we question our relationships with the inner and outer worlds and test our coping strategies. In fact, how a person handles a crisis is a defining factor in shaping their personal strength, resilience, and the very foundations of their character. The solutions a person devises in response to a crisis are often based on deep, subconscious beliefs, value judgments, and personal experiences. A crisis is not just a threat, it's also an opportunity to unlock one's inner potential. Many people, in moments of crisis, consciously or unconsciously confront the emotional and psychological wounds they have previously suppressed or left unresolved. The search for solutions is shaped by their past experiences, their current psychological state, and their personal beliefs. It shows how a person perceives the crisis and how they make sense of the situation. Jung said that when a person faces a crisis, their search for solutions determines not only how they will get through the moment, but also what they can learn from it and how they can develop. If a person looks for solutions solely in external factors, like environmental support or public approval, they may neglect their own inner strength. On the other hand, a person who seeks a solution by adopting an internal approach to the crisis can increase their spiritual strength and self-awareness. Jung argued that this inner search for solutions is a cornerstone of the individuation process, allowing a person to understand their inner potential and subconscious obstacles. Then there's adaptation. Adaptation isn't just about how a person initially reacts to a crisis. It's about how those reactions change over time. For Jung, successful adaptation during a crisis reflects a person's flexibility, awareness, and ability to adjust to environmental factors. The process of adaptation isn't just about surviving. It's about learning to adjust to new situations in a healthy way. The success of adaptation also depends on how a person processes their past experiences and how those experiences give them inner strength. Sometimes adaptation happens not through conscious effort, but through the work of the subconscious. During a crisis, a person may unconsciously cleanse their subconscious of the traces of past traumas, leading to a kind of psychological renewal. For Jung, the search for solutions and adaptation in times of crisis are not just external coping strategies. This process provides a deep insight into a person's inner world, their personality, and their evolutionary development. The search for solutions reveals what strategies a personality uses under pressure, what defense mechanisms are activated. Adaptation in turn, determines how the personality changes, develops, and moves to the next stage of life. In a crisis, this process symbolizes personal transformation and contributes to achieving spiritual maturity. Crises are one of the most important tests of this transformation and adaptation, revealing how a person rebuilds their relationship between their inner and outer worlds. Think about how you navigated the toughest crisis of your life. Where did you primarily seek support initially? And where did you find it later? In external resources, friends, finances, a change of scenery, or internal one's re-evaluation, acceptance, meditation, faith? Did your way of seeking solutions change after that crisis? What did that experience teach you about your own capacity for adaptation? Share your story of transformation, if you're willing. Part 5. The Persona and the True Self. Navigating Social Masks and Real Identity. One of Carl Jung's deepest concepts is the distinction between the social mask, what he called the persona, and the true identity. Jung argued that the persona is an identity created by social and cultural structures that dictates how we appear in the external world. However, this mask is often separate from a person's true self, their inner identity. In crisis times, these masks often crumble. The social roles we play, the successful professional, the always strong, the perfect parent, can suddenly feel flimsy and false. The person begins to question who they really are. In their own eyes and in the eyes of others, Jung believed this process plays a vital role in revealing true character. The conflict between the social mask and the true identity is a crucial key to understanding a person, their psychological state, and how they cope, especially under stress. The persona is a protective structure we develop to be accepted, to fit in, and to present a certain image to others. Everyone, from childhood, forms a personality in line with society's norms and expectations. But a crisis often forces a person to make a choice. Faced with social pressures and role expectations, the mask can slip, forcing the individual to confront their inner self, with all its weaknesses, fears, and pain. This can lead to a kind of identity crisis or a profound restructuring of the self. Jung believed that social masks hide the true personality, and that these masks need to be broken down. It's only by dismantling them that a person can get closer to knowing their true self. This process can be painful and complex because it means facing an identity that might be incompatible with societal norms. The true identity is based on internal truth and freedom, for Jung. The difference between the social mask and the true identity plays a huge role in a person's development. In moments of crisis, when a person starts questioning their social masks, it also brings forth conflicts within the personality, suppressed desires, and subconscious barriers. This situation reflects the individual's struggle to attain their authentic identity, the true self refers to the person's core being that exists independently of societal pressure. Jung described the journey to find this self as individuation, a voyage inward to know one's true nature and build a life accordingly. Stepping beyond social masks and external identities is often challenging because it can leave a person feeling isolated in a social context. But the destruction of the persona and the discovery of the true self allow for deeper self-awareness and spiritual maturity. A crisis can accelerate this process, making it more obvious. Faced with a crisis, a person might realize how temporary and false the social masks are. While the persona forces us to conform to external expectations, the true identity implies a deep sense of self. Moments of crisis can become an opportunity to drop these masks and reveal our authentic essence. This process, though often painful, allows people to know themselves more deeply, gain consciousness, and live a more authentic life. For Jung, this journey of individuation is one of the most important steps a person can take towards spiritual maturity. And now, the most important question, personally, for you. What was the primary social mask, the role you play for others, that became the hardest to wear during the last crisis in your life? The strong one. The one who has it all together. The agreeable employee. What was hiding behind that mask when it cracked? Fear. Exhaustion. Loneliness. Share if you're willing. Acknowledging your mask is the greatest act of courage on the path to yourself. Part 6. Inner Conflicts and Outer Behavior. The final piece of the puzzle. In the final analysis of Jung's psychology, the study of inner conflicts and their effect on behavior is essential. Inner conflicts rise from the tension a person feels between their conscious thoughts and unconscious desires, or between social expectations and internal needs. These conflicts don't just shape a person's psychological development. They can lead to significant changes in their social relationships, career, and personal life. They are key to understanding character. The behavior we see on the surface is often rooted in the struggle between what the personality truly desires and the norms imposed by the outside world. During a crisis, suppressed impulses surface, sometimes leading to irrational and uncontrolled behavior. But Jung saw these conflicts not just as sources of chaos, but as potential pathways to self-knowledge. A person's psychological health depends on how they handle these conflicts. They must confront and accept their inner conflicts and the suppressed aspects of their shadow. Jung called this process individuation, the journey to find one's true identity beyond social expectation. Eins, conscious and unconscious desires, and psychological barriers, understanding how inner conflicts shape behavior gives us a vital key to character if internal conflicts are successfully managed. A person's external behavior becomes more harmonious, but if they are ignored or suppressed, they can create pressure that leads to dysfunction, misunderstanding, and emotional disconnection in social relationships. A person trying to suppress their inner conflicts might face increased stress, anxiety, and depression. For Jung, accepting, confronting, and attempting to resolve these conflicts are the cornerstones of psychological and spiritual maturation. This process leaves deep marks not only on the inner world, but also on outer behavior. Resolving inner conflicts is a crucial step toward knowing one's true personality and essence, leading to a healthier life that is in harmony with both social reality and one's own internal needs and desires. So, what do you think? How do these inner conflicts between societal expectations and your own internal needs show up in your life? How important do you believe resolving these conflicts is for your mental health and personal development? Your thoughts are truly important. This is a conversation we need to have. Share your experiences with us in the comments below. If you want to see more content like this, diving deep into Jungian psychology and understanding the human character, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Your comments are incredibly valuable to us, and we look forward to reading your responses. By the way, the join button is activated for our channel. Becoming a member is a fantastic way to support us directly so we can create even more in-depth content like this for you. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive today. Until next time, take care and look inward.